Hi, oh, Leather Rokk here. Welcome to my channel. That was Cassie, the garden cat. And I have something on my computer screen there. What you're about to see is basically my talking about the truth of my Atlantic City experience. Actually, I'd been filming a bunch of vlog posts yesterday and the day before, and most of the footage wasn't useful really. But then I filmed some today, and I decided that I owe you guys the truth. I think that you're under the impression that I am some kind of spokesperson for this town, and it's really a town that has a lot of big city problems and a lot of crime. And before you decide to come down here when it opens up, if it ever opens up, you deserve to know the truth. If you want to know the truth, stay tuned. I just think it's funny how you could go a half a block away and things are civilized. This doesn't look like ghetto bullshit here. This looks nice and peaceful. There are very nice people that live on this block. Go 100 feet on the other side of the street and it is cuckoo, crackhead, and heroin town with pimps and prostitutes. But here it is so nice and lovely. You should see it sometime. Check this out. Gunshots. Oh, wow. Oh my God. I hope they killed some bad ones. Wow. Oh my God. It is Saturday night, 9:47 p.m. You know, I did a lot of... Oh, that was Cassie's just said hello. I was doing a bunch of filming last night when I had fallen asleep and I woke up and it was like 3 in the morning and I realized that I needed some footage because I wanted to attempt to have something to post for Saturday, which is today, which is one of my posting days. Yes, Cassie. You know what? Cassie has so much to say. Would you like to see my Cassie girl? Hold on. Oh, look who I have. I have my Cassie girl. So, last night, most of my footage was not very usable, so I deleted it because I was so tired. I was practically brain dead, kind of stuck on stupid. I didn't feel that I was very eloquent. I didn't feel that I was very positive. And if something makes me not look very intelligent, there's no sense in posting it. So I deleted it. So here it is, going on 10 o'clock, and I haven't done any filming today before right now. So I always have things to get off my chest, and tonight's no different. There are so many problems in this town. There's so many problems in my neighborhood. You know, a lot of time I don't feel safe enough to go to my mailbox to check for the mail. We have so many gangs in the city. You may be walking around on the boardwalk and seeing some nice scenes. You see casinos, you see shops, you see the beach, you see people. But if you go on side streets, if you go 1 or 2 blocks down from, perpendicular to the boardwalk, you see something totally different. There are so many crime-ridden areas in this town, and I want to get out of here so badly. All right, Cassie. It's I just stepped in a water bowl that had fish in it. Oh, great. But that was my fault. I shouldn't have put it on the floor. I don't feel safe here. And if any of you guys are considering coming here once the town finally opens up, I have to tell you, you really should think twice. If you come here, and you're staying in a hotel or something, stay there. Maybe confine yourself to the boardwalk, but if you want to go exploring on foot, you may find yourself in a neighborhood that looks innocuous enough, but if you notice that there's people that are just standing around and don't seem like they're doing anything but standing, there's a good chance that they are standing because they are trying to drum up business for gangs. Um, Even if you are finding yourself in a crowded parking lot and you think you're safe, you probably have no way of knowing whether it's not full of people hanging around with gang members and drug dealers and pimps and prostitutes and things. Last week, there was a shooting not too far from where I live. I didn't know that's what it was at first. I was hearing these pop sounds that sounded innocuous, but when you see all kinds of red and blue flashing lights, then you know that something's going on. I can't tell you how many times I don't feel safe to exit my home. I have two different ways to get in and out of this building. One of them is a private entrance. Another one I would have to share with other people that live in my building. And for the most part, we have had neighbors that have been, these people that live in our building have been harmless, but right now it is not the case. Without giving too much away, there is a certain entity that has moved people in, and of course, we're never told when new people move in. You end up meeting them by chance, by accident. One of the people that lives next door is the guy that attacked me a couple of weeks ago, and he still has not been brought to justice. And I thought I had a local friend who used to belong to some old-style fight clubs back in the day, whenever the day was, and I'm starting to find out that my buddy is all talk. It's funny he doesn't bring up what happened to me, and he likes to talk about the doctors and therapists that he's punched out, and yet he can't go after a sex offender. And in addition to the fact that that dirtbag is a sex offender, he's also dealing drugs of some kind. The traffic in and out, slamming that gate, just like slamming the door downstairs. Sometimes when I'm trying to film my videos in the wee hours in my home/studio, they're partying it up next door. If there was any kind of social distancing going on or any kind of quarantine going on, you would never know it, judging by this neighborhood, judging by some of my neighbors. The things that are going on here, I'm afraid to go into too much detail because I don't really know who's even watching my videos. It's not as pretty and as safe as you think it is. And the fact that people seem to be getting away with all kinds of things and nobody's ever brought to justice. Now, we have been told by certain vice police that they are monitoring this area, and you would never know it. I can't tell you how many times I have made phone calls to the non-emergency police number reporting certain specific activity that I was witnessing. And the dispatcher is always pleasant. They always seem sympathetic. They always say they're sending a patrol car. And those dirtbags are not as stupid as you think they are. They must have people doing lookout from who knows where. And I think they're always tipped up because if the police cars do show up, then they're gone. If it's about a loud stereo that somebody's blasting somewhere close by, they turn it down just before the cops show up, and then as soon as the cops go, they turn it back up again. And this can happen anywhere. This happens during the daytime when it drowns out any electronics we may have, radios, TVs, whatever. And at nighttime, after 11 o'clock, there's supposed to be a noise ordinance here. And you would think that a basic human being would have some kind of respect and not want to disturb innocent people. But if you're all drunk and hopped up on whatever drugs, it's hard to think about other people besides yourself. And I have a sneaking suspicion that due to some current events going on in other parts of the country, the police are probably less inclined to come to our aid, to help to make this neighborhood a safe place for the families that live here. And there are lots of families that live here. Now, I know that this COVID-19 is affecting things. That goes without saying. And I'm sure that my experience in this pandemic is nowhere near as traumatic as those people who've actually gotten sick or have lost loved ones to the disease. I try to go out as little as possible because I don't want to expose my mother to it. If anything were to happen to her, I would be totally devastated. And I've said that before, but I'm sure any of you with older loved ones would feel the same way. I don't claim that my experience is any special or spectacular or anything, but, and I've said it before, it's really getting to me. I was having thoughts earlier today that I didn't feel like posting at all today. I was even thinking, why should I go on with this channel if I don't have anything positive to say? And this is not a positive video. I don't pretend that it is, but you guys need to be aware if you're thinking of coming to the city. It is really, and I used to really be offended when people would make these comments trying to discourage people from coming to Atlantic City because they'd had some kind of violent crime happened or seen things. But you know what? It's true. Did you hear that? Did you hear those sirens? Getting back to the police that are supposedly monitoring this area. If they really were, they would know the spots where people hang out and the things that they do. They're not monitoring it. Half the time they don't come when called. There are times when they have asked my name when I called and they asked a phone number. And the thing is, you don't need my phone number. Everybody seems to have caller ID. I think that, and there have been times when I've called this non-emergency number that we all have memorized in my home. And sometimes they don't even answer. Now, I know they have to triage calls according to how serious things are. And a noise complaint or a complaint about people that are doing so much gang banging, drug dealing, and whatever, to the point where they're barricading you inside your own home because they lean their bicycles up against your front door. And I don't have a peephole in my preferred way to go out my home. And frankly, even if I did see them, you're not supposed to block somebody's door. Any idiot knows that. These people, I shouldn't call them people. They're not worthy of respect to be called people, and animals are too innocent to be what they are. But when you have a certain segment of the population that has no conscience, doesn't care about hurting other people, doesn't care about other people's feelings, total sociopaths, there's nothing you can do but try to get away from the situation. And of course, this has been the start of the quote-unquote summer season. So even if we had a place to go, and the thing is, all three of us would have to go at the same time because that is the only way that rent can be made. And one of those people is my mother, and she is 79 years old, and she would be more at risk than anything else with COVID-19, which of course is another reason why people probably can't move. How the hell do you find a new place to live during a pandemic? And I could go on and on about how I dread the idea of the summer that practically won't be one because nothing is going to be open that's any good. And okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. Listening to the radio, I found out that there is going to be certain movie theaters that are going to be redoing their insides so that you can still social distance. I guess they're going to have seats that are 6 feet apart or whatever, and then you're going to have special seating areas for households so families who live together can sit and watch movies together. Now, I haven't been to a movie theater since I left Los Angeles, to tell you the truth. One of the things I don't like about movie theaters, besides the cost to go see a show, is you got to deal with other people that like to talk through movies and stuff, and maybe have somebody kick the back of your seat. But it's the talking that would bother me the most, and I would be the person that would get in a shouting match with somebody by trying to shush them, and things would only get worse from there. So I've always kind of been glad to have cable television, but our cable was shut off 2 months ago. Comcast said, by the way, that because of this pandemic, they were not going to shut off anything, but they didn't say that until the day after they shut us off. And part of the reason why they shut us off, to give full disclosure here, is because my other roommate has not got his stimulus check yet. And when you're getting your money in dribs and drabs, you have to prioritize which bills get paid. The rent got paid first. My mother had to pay her insurance premium, and her health insurance premiums something like $300 something a month. I think that is absolutely obscene. I've never paid premiums like that. Then again, I have not been in the tax bracket where I would have to be buying expensive insurance. I'm on what you call the poor side of town, you know. So, but still, we don't deserve to be living in the ghetto like this. I'm sure that when this apartment was found, and it was the other roommate that found the apartment, and we all three moved in, and we did not know how bad this neighborhood was. We didn't know that we would be almost the only people that looked like us on the block. I think you know what I'm saying here. When we first moved in, there were very few people that even spoke English, and then it turned out that there were lots of other English-speaking people, but they tended to be gangbangers. And I was very slow to figure that out because I really do try not to get in other people's business, but sometimes you have no choice but to be made aware of things that are going on around you. And this whole idea that people can be carrying around these speakers that look like little designer purses, and they got these big crossbody straps on them, kind of look like guitar straps, and they will play, I won't call it music, hip hop. It's always hip hop. Like 3 in the morning, and they'll walk really slowly underneath windows of passing these buildings where you know damn well that on the everything from the second floor up, those are families. Those are people that are paying to live there. Where would anybody think it's okay to blast music at those hours when there are people trying to sleep? I'm worrying about myself about if I'm starting to suffer some ill effects of sleep deprivation. Some nights I only get 2 hours of sleep. Now, I didn't go to bed last night until like 6 o'clock in the morning. And most of that I do take self-responsibility for because I was trying to come up with some footage so that I would have more to work with to try to make something for you guys for today. And I was just literally stuck on stupid, and there was still noise that was going on and stuff. If it wasn't for those videos that play nature sounds and have the subliminals that tend to be, I am a money magnet and I love money and money loves me and all this hippie horse shit. I've been listening to them for about 3 months now. I should be like Donald Trump by now, and I have the same not pot to piss in that I had 3 months ago. If anything, the day jobs that I have been working on to try to eke out whatever satisfies my needs, like the skincare and the makeup, which I don't know about skincare, but I think I have enough makeup for 10 of me. Really, how much war paint does a person need? But, and I never did make that wish order that would have included the lavalier microphone and a bunch of other things. I was going to order a bunch of masks, but then I thought about it and I said, you know what? This pandemic isn't going to last forever, and then I'm going to have a shitload of face masks. So maybe the 2 N95s that were sent to me very graciously by somebody who turned out to be a very decent person, very decent friend on Facebook. And as much as I kind of hate Facebook, I love hate, but mostly hate. If I hadn't joined it, I never would have met people like him. And I'm not going to drop any names, but it turns out that he works in the X-ray department at a VA hospital somewhere. So I got this medical thing from somebody that works in the medical field who understands that I can't afford to get this virus because I can't afford to transmit it to my mother. People my mother's age that get COVID-19, a lot of times they die, and I'm not willing to accept that chance. If anything happens to her, I'm going to have to get out of here. I probably have a week to get out of here. I can't stick around. I can't stick around with the other roommate. The other roommate and I are not close. I don't want to get into too many details, but I will say that we're not friends. And if not for my mother, one of us would probably be dead now, and it wouldn't be him. So, but meanwhile, I can't even check my mail. And the thing is, I could leave. I'm hoarding the mailbox key because if I leave it where he can get it, he will go check the mail. Then if there's mail for me, he'll keep it for months, and it won't be until sometime that I accidentally come across it and I'll find out that there was something for me. So because I don't want my mail stolen, that's why I hoard the mailbox key. But it's pretty bad when I have to look out my window to check to make sure the coast is clear to see if it's safe for me to check the mail. And as far as taking the trash out or taking recycling out, similar situation. You got to check to see if it's safe. Um, and when you get compliments around here, I'm always going to be gracious about it and say thank you and stuff. But when they're saying that they like the way I'm dressed, right away, I could just see the gears spinning in their brains, and they're thinking, what's she dressed like that for? Is she a working girl? If I save enough money from my welfare check, maybe I can buy some time with her. You can tell that these people are thinking this. And it's pretty disgusting that you have to live in an environment where even people that purport to be decent church-going people, I've met more church-going scumbags in my life. And when I say church, I don't mean just Christian churches. Heck, when I was in Phoenix, Arizona, I had an accidental, unwanted encounter, let's say, with somebody who had a guru. This man carried a picture of this guru's feet on him, and he was a tarot card reader. This was just before I went on tour with the Grateful Dead, and some terrible, terrible things happened that should never happen. And of course, you never forget things like that. And this was a very religious person. So you can be a religious person and you could still be a scumbag. You could still be a sex offender, a Chester molester. You could still be a depraved human being. So I'm not really all that impressed when I learn that somebody's religious. Just because you think that you're religious doesn't mean that you are incapable of taking advantage of other human beings. And don't let me get started on the people who are preachers and lay preachers, and they play past the collection plate. And of course, churches have a tax exempt status. So it seems to me that if you want a guaranteed income, just go memorize some Bible verses, say you're a church, then you get 103C tax exempt status. That's the biggest racket in the books. I really think that we should do something about taxing churches. That's what I really think. But there's too many people who will say, oh, churches do good in the community. And some of them do. Many of them do. I won't lie to you and say that I haven't been the recipient of generosities, courtesy of some churches in my day, especially in California. The best soup kitchens are run by houses of worship. That just happens to be a fact. And there are lots of compassionate people that are inspired by their spirituality. We know that to be true. That said, when I think of what I see going on in my neighborhood, and I think of how unsafe I feel, and I think of sometimes I feel so depressed I don't want to leave the house, and this is long before this pandemic raised its ugly head. So many times I'm afraid to leave the house because even if I think, okay, it's dangerous, these windows I'm looking out, so I go look out other windows, and there's dirt balls elsewhere. There's no escaping these people. When that chick approached me the other day and she had a steak knife in her hand, I was afraid I was going to get my throat slashed. You can't be fooled just because somebody gives you a compliment or something. You don't know what they're thinking. And if you get these alarms going off in your gut, something probably is wrong and you should listen to your gut. When it's the night that you take out your trash and your recycling, I can't tell you how many times I've missed the recycling pickup because it was simply too dangerous to take the cans outside. Or if you put them out too early, then there's going to be some jerk that's going to kick them over and spill cans and bottles out into the street. And if you don't want them to make noise being blown around and stuff, you got to pick them up. And now with this COVID-19 and stuff, like I used to be one to pick up recycling when I would see it on the sidewalk in the gutter. And you got these gangbangers when you're hanging out, loitering, looking at their cell phones, handing out crack rocks and heroin baggies, and they sit in cars and the engine's running, spewing carbon monoxide for hours at a time. And sometimes I'll get ballsy and I'll come out there and I'll say, look, would you please not, when you're running the engine, all you're doing is polluting the air. And when we have no choice but to open up the air because we can't afford air conditioning because what does the electric bill, then we get those pollutants in our air. And people like my mother who are only getting 30% of their oxygen as it is. My mother has heart failure, not heart disease, heart failure. She has a stent in her heart. She does not get very much oxygen when she breathes. She is overweight. She's fragile. She has shortness of breath. When the doorbell rings, because it's hopefully the mailman, but often it's some people that are looking for somebody else, if nobody's home but her, then she has to go down a flight of stairs to deal with people, and she can't really do it too well. What if my mother were to fall down the stairs? Oh, I can't tell you how many people ring the doorbell just to be jerks, you know? I mean, and if you yell from the foot of the stairs, who is it? People won't say anything. And I've had people that will say mail carrier, and I open the door and it's not, and they think it's funny. This area, there are streets behind me where people, and I'd like to know how this is even physically possible, people are looking for bathrooms, and it's not just urination. That's not that big a deal. People, there is a way to defecate up against a wall. And I don't mean down on the corner, I mean up against the wall. I'd like to know how the hell that's even possible. If you know, please, I don't need the details, but this goes on here. And I'm sure it's worse now because it's harder to find public restrooms because of the pandemic. You can't just go duck into the casinos now because they're closed. It seems to me the only businesses are open are some places where you can get food to go. But unfortunately, there are some 24-hour markets that attract the worst of the worst. People loiter. If there's a parking lot, people will park their cars in there. Even parking lots that normally would have signs saying how much it charges for parking. Instead of locking them and closing them, these lots are open, and so people are using them with impunity, and they bring their cars in and they turn their fancy club volume stereos up to 100. Again, in the wee hours of the night. They do not care. And I don't understand, we're obviously not the only people that live in this neighborhood. There are people all over, and I imagine everybody has a telephone of some kind. Some may even have landlines like we do. Do any of those people call the cops? Maybe they do and the cops don't come. Maybe they've just given up. And if they have given up, I would like to know why. Am I the only person that gives a damn in this neighborhood? You know, I never signed up to be the lone community watch. And look at me. Do I look like I should be doing this in the ghetto? Do I look like I blend in with the fucking ghetto? Don't you realize that I feel like I have a target on me every damn day because I'm sure that a few of these dirtbags know that I'm the bitch that's making the phone calls. I know they gotta know that I don't like the fact that they're here. I wouldn't go find out where they lived and go create disturbances and make it so that they couldn't sleep. I have better things to do with my time than to hang around outside for hours and hours and hours. And you know, if I did, people would think right away that I was a whore. Just like, I know with COVID-19, it's not going to last forever. I know that these days will be in the rearview mirror sometime, and we'll look upon this from a historical perspective, and we'll think about it, and we'll analyze things, and we'll think, well, maybe, hopefully, it will be more than 100 years before the world goes through this again. Who knows? But as far as this neighborhood and trying to get out of it, I'm not feeling very hopeful. For all I know, I may end up dying in this neighborhood, and I don't want my life to end with my being stuck in a town that I frankly do not like, never felt at home. The truth is, from the time I was 11 years old, I wanted to move the hell out of here. That's the honest-to-God truth. I'm a of the public school system, and when I was started off in school, we were having very serious race problems. I was beat up so much. I remember having, and I'm going to be nice, and I'm not going to say the names of any races because I don't want to offend anybody. But I remember distinctly having my hair pulled and my head being stepped on and being pushed by this bitch's foot. into a, not a storm grate, the metal, like a utility cover or something, a square shape, rectangular straight thing. And we lived across the street from the school at the time. And my mother ran across the street and had to pull this cunt's hands off my hair and pick me up. And my mother went to PTA meetings so many times, went to principal's office so many times. Nothing was really ever done to these bastards. It got so bad that when it came time for 7th and 8th grade, my parents sent me to a Catholic school. And I really didn't want to go because I didn't want to be indoctrinated. I didn't want, there's so many things that I didn't want. At the time, I had started some philosophical explorations that were decidedly not Christian, and I really did not want to be in that school, and I even threatened to kill myself. And my father was a little concerned, but my mom thought it was kind of funny. And as this story goes, this is almost like a family legend now, my parents went to Dunkin' Donuts, had a cup of coffee, and my father supposedly said to my mom, "Aren't you worried about your daughter?" She said, well, if anything happens, we'll just have a mess to clean up." Needless to say, I didn't do anything except sulked some, and I did my 2 years. And in fact, this school, when I decided to be honest with the principal and I told her that I was not really a Catholic, then she sent a letter to my parents saying that we needed to start paying the non-Catholic tuition, which I don't know what the difference was, but there is a difference. And my mother apparently marched to the Monsignor's office and said, "Over my dead body," and whatever it is. She said, I don't know. So I got through the 2 years of Catholic school, and it really wasn't that bad because, to their credit, there were some teachers that built me up, that respected my rights as an individual, because I was never a conformist, and I always felt very different than other kids. And now I have some ideas for why I felt different, but at the time, all I knew was these kids are different than me. So many of them are assholes. I don't have much in common with them. And part of it also was that I was raised to relate to people like adults relate to adults. And I didn't have many friends my own age growing up, and I was always kind of precocious. And my mother, her background was she was a school teacher before she met my father. She taught high school English, and so she always expected nothing but good grades. She was a straight A student, and she lauded her straight A report cards over me. And when she would say things like, "If you bring home anything less than a B, don't bother coming home." And that puts a lot of pressure on a kid, but now I'm glad that she did. There's nothing wrong with expecting your kids to do well. And I had a couple of lay teachers that really seemed to get me and appreciate me, and they would tell me things like they had autograph books then that you would get the signatures of your classmates and stuff. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I'll always remember what he wrote. The individual has the same rights as the group. And I took that to heart. I appreciated that this man got me. He was a decent person. He was fun. He made learning fun. Then I went to high school, and matter of fact, I went to Atlantic City High School. And you want to talk about race problems? Oh boy. Of course, maybe it didn't help that I decided to learn how to get my hair cornrowed, and I love the braids and the beads. And if I adopt a certain kind of fashion, it's because I find it beautiful. It's not because of my relationship with the culture it came from. And if you want to give me any cultural appropriation bullshit, I'm going to stop and cut you off right at the pass. We don't judge people based on the kind of foods they eat. At least you shouldn't. And fashion is just fashion. If you see something that's beautiful and you find inspiration in that, fashion is a worldwide thing. But if I tell you how many times I was beat up and assaulted and different things happened to me in that high school, do you know how many times my mother had to go to the principal's office and report things? Do you know how many times I had to take kids to juvenile court? I bet I got a half a dozen kids kicked out of day school because of them beating me up. And I don't mean just smacking and kicking and stuff. I mean punching. In that high school, there were big males that punched me. And I'm going to tell you something you might not want to hear, and I'm not lying to you. It was all racially motivated. That school, and I was in college preparatory classes, but when you're roaming the halls trying to get from class A to class B, you're exposed to the whole student body. Most of them may not be kids that are in your classes. And once you're going into halls is one thing because teachers can theoretically see you, but when you're using the stairwells, a lot of times there are no teachers and there are no witnesses. And they didn't have cameras in those days. There is no way to prove the things that were going on in that school. I couldn't wait to get the hell out of that school. I graduated. I got through it. I never really considered going to college back then because I knew in my gut that I wouldn't be using my time well. I would want to be doing the drug, sex, and rock and roll thing. I developed a taste for liquor, and drugs kind of soon follow. None of it's any good. The only thing that I would say was more or less harmless was the marijuana. Got a taste for that, and that's the one thing that has not changed. I've given up everything else as far as the chemical stuff goes, you know. Heck, if you ask me, all that crap is overrated. I've gotten so cynical in my, I won't say dotage, in case some of you think I'm just of a slip of a teeny bopper. I'm not going to tell you any different. But I'm glad to have gotten out of that school intact. I can't help but wonder how different things may have been if I had been able to have an educational experience where they had video evidence of some of the abuses that were going on. Heck, going back to grade school, you know, it wasn't just kids. I maybe should do a story time about experience I had with a particular teacher, and this was not a racially motivated thing. She was just a matter of fact, I really idolized her. She was glamorous and she was beautiful and she was evil. Now, I don't know if she's still alive. In case she might still be alive, I probably can't make the video, but I suppose there's not too many people that haven't had at least one really god-awful teacher that's made a lasting impact. And when you have an educational system in an era when they don't have video cameras everywhere, then people can get away with a lot of things. Teachers can abuse kids. And it's not just kids abusing kids, you know. And of course, things still go on now, but at least with so many people carrying cell phones that tend to have cameras in them, at least there's a chance for a witness to maybe get somebody to come to your aid and to get perpetrators to justice. I'd be kind of terrified if I had kids and I had to worry about them being victimized in schools. You know, I kind of bit the bullet by that not happening, I guess. And it wasn't necessarily, I mean, when I was younger, I definitely wasn't interested in being a parent. And I never really thought about this whole ticking clock thing. And certainly when I was in Los Angeles, I wasn't living the life that you would call stable. And I don't think it's right to bring a child into this world when you don't have a partner to co-parent. And if you can barely keep a roof over your own head, how can you take care of a kid? Heck, I was afraid to have pets out there because I didn't want anything to happen to them. So anyway, I know I'm rambling here. I'm filming this so that you have something from me for today. I'm sorry to be such a downer, but I don't want to hide how I feel, and I don't want to lie, and things are really bad here. I live in such a dangerous neighborhood. Now, I don't know if this is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods here. There are some parts of the city that I have never been in. I've only ridden on buses and gone through, but there's a section, for instance, called Back Maryland. I don't want you to think I'm saying Black Maryland, even though it's that too, but no, they call it Back Maryland because Maryland Avenue is a big street that goes through where the city gets really, really thick. Atlantic City's on an island. It's on a barrier island called Absecon Island, and there's only a few ways that you can access this island, and they're all by bridges. And there's two bridges in Atlantic City, one that's attached to the Atlantic City Expressway, and then there's one down more in the where the southernmost casino would be, or used to be. That casino happens to be closed. Anyway, when my father was stabbed in both of his hands during what we are sure was a gang initiation, that's where those kids came from. We think. We'll never know for sure. You know, you can't identify the people involved. And but we will never forget what happened. And I'm sure this happens to people all the time. But if you guys are thinking of coming down to Atlantic City, I think I've been misrepresenting myself in my channel in a way. When I film all this stuff about the city, it almost seems like a love letter to the city. It almost seems like this is this travel log, and I'm showcasing my beautiful, glamorous city because I'm this beautiful, glamorous person, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? However you may perceive me, and if it's complimentary, I thank you for that. And if your thoughts are positive, I thank you for that. But if you value your safety, if you stand out at all artistically, I can't in good conscience encourage you to come here. Now, I don't know when we're going to open up for business as far as the casinos go and the hotels. The bed and breakfast, supposedly all summer, they're not going to be able to open. And that's a shame because I have a couple of acquaintances who renovate apartments. It all looks crappy on the outside, but inside the furniture's new, and they make it look really nice to justify the rents that bed and breakfast charge. I wouldn't know what the prices are like. You guys would know more than me if you patronize such things. But these very nice insides may still be in really bad neighborhoods. And if you're coming here by car, you've got to park your car someplace. And assuming they don't have a driveway or some safe place to park, if you park outside, a half a block away may be crack and hooker and heroin central. Look on the ground the next time you come here, and you will see the hypodermic syringes. You'll see used condoms. It's nice somebody is using them. You'll see human excrement. You'll see people that won't curb their dogs. I feel bad for the families that live here. If you're a single female and you want to come here, please be careful. People do get raped here. People do get mugged here. If you're gay or lesbian or transgender, please be careful. Long gone are the days when we had an LGBTQ strip. It was on New York Avenue, and there was all kinds of wonderful gay clubs. And one by one, they died off. And I don't want to drop any names here, but I was really surprised when the owner of one of these clubs decided to close it down completely. It was like this amazing gay disco that was for anybody who was cool. Matter of fact, they used to have discount nights on Wednesdays and Sundays, and a lot of casino workers went there. And of course, this was when I liked my alcohol a lot, and they would have this 50-cent night, and you can get really shit-faced, even considering you're tipping all the time, prices like that. And this was a really great place for all kinds of people to get together and just dance. And they didn't play this hip-hop bullshit. It was like disco and 70s music and stuff, and maybe some 80s dance music and stuff, and I miss it so much. But we don't have these kind of places now. We have a few bars, and of course, since I quit drinking, I really haven't been in them, especially since I wear all this Trump stuff, and unfortunately, so many people in certain demographics seem to hate him so much, and I feel again like I have a bunch of targets on my back. And of course, you could say, well, Leathur, if you know that you're backing an unpopular guy, why do you wear that shit? And of course, I would have to say to you something called the First Amendment. I am an American citizen, and I do enjoy the freedoms that we have here. And that, one of my most important, precious freedoms is the freedom of self-expression. Just like I couldn't take a job where I couldn't dress like myself. I had to pee in a cup, and they might not like the results. Now, if all they were testing for was heroin and crack and all that stuff, then I'd gladly give you all the urine you want because I know you're not going to find it in me. But if it's a drug test and it's going to test for cannabis, if I quit for a couple of years, I would still test positive for it. I know when I stopped smoking before I got my hand surgery for this broken finger, and this happened 3 or 4 years ago, I quit smoking for like, I guess 3 weeks or so, something like that, and I still tested positive. But the reason why the doctor said he wanted me to stop is because unless you grew it yourself, you don't know if it was cut with something, and if it was adulterated with something that would contraindicate or interact negatively with the anesthesia, it could prove to be deadly, and who wants to die on the operating table? So, but anyway, I need to be able to be happy. I need to be able to look like myself, dress like myself, wear the makeup I want. I'm not going to dye my hair and stop wearing makeup just for a job, even if it pays really well. I'm not willing to make that kind of compromise. And so, needless to say, work opportunities in this town are very slim pickings. They would never take me in a casino, and I can't see myself really working in them anyway. And even though, except for maybe some dance work, and the thing is, the standards for hiring dancers is different than what I'm used to. In Los Angeles, I was always worried about being 5 pounds overweight for gigs. And now that we have this body positivity movement, they're hiring fat strippers, or not strippers, excuse me, go-go dancers. And they have all different kinds of bodies. And except that I'm sure there's age limits. So, and also they don't seem to have any ways for them to get tipped. I have been to a couple of casino that had dance floors, and they had a couple of dancers in cages to the left and to the right, and I'm watching them because as a dancer I appreciate good dancers, and if you're good looking I appreciate that too, because why not? Even though I don't want to seem like I'm staring, because I don't want people to be offended. Because I'm fully aware of the fact that I'm not a man, so I shouldn't be looking at female dancers because somebody might be offended, some tongues might be wagging. And so I would want to, since I was getting a good eyeful, I would want to tip them, and they don't have any ways for these women to get money. And I felt bad because, now granted, I don't know how they're being paid, but still, if you're going to have dancers on little tiny platforms, you should at least have something that you can put dollar bills in. I think that would be really nice. And why they don't do that here, I don't know. And now maybe they do in some clubs here that I don't know about as far as casino dance clubs. I hope you know that when I say dance club, I don't mean the same thing as strip joints, even though I did say strip earlier, because I am no stranger to burlesque establishments in Los Angeles. I had some quite good times in places like that, but I will also say that all I did was dance, and even though there were some people who worked in them that did dirty things, I could never stomach anything like that, even though I probably could have made some nice money, but I'm not willing to make moral compromises, even though there are so many people that will swear up and down that if a woman works in a bikini bar or whatever, then they're all automatically whores, and I can tell you that is not true. But there are no nice places to dance here in this town as far as that goes, and certainly nothing is open now with COVID-19. And because of the social distancing advisories, I don't know that they will ever be able to have dancing this summer. I mean, how do you keep 6 feet apart from people? Or would they have dance clubs but no liquor sold? And since most of the ways that these clubs make their money is through liquor sales, especially if it's free admission, the admission's free, but they hope you're going to buy a bunch of drinks at the bar. And if they knew that, oh, there goes cheapskate Leathur, she's clean and sober, so she's not going to spend any money at the bar. If they were smart, they wouldn't let me in, because they say, screw this bitch, she's not going to give us any money. It's not worth us to be open if it's all going to be people like her that aren't spending money, because, that's good business, right? But maybe I don't look as cheap as I am. Do me a favor, don't tell them I said so. But yeah, I'm really disgusted about how we're being cheated out of the summer. I'm sure most of you are. I'm disgusted that I live in a really decrepit neighborhood. I don't know that there's any way out. It's pretty bad when you're too scared to leave the house. And so if you guys were expecting any exterior footage today, forget about it. I can't film outside if it's not safe to go outside. It's gotten so bad here. It has gotten worse. I think this pandemic has made the crime worse. And it seems to me that for all the people that lost their jobs and stuff, they sure have money for drugs. Or maybe these people are mugging and doing different things just so that they can pay their bills. They can afford all the gas for their gas guzzler cars that they're running their engines idling for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours at a time. And the cops are too afraid to enforce the law. You know, when the cops are afraid of the citizens, that's not good. And with all the things that are going on in certain big cities, I would like to do a video where I have my own solution to the problem, but I don't know that it would fit the channel, and I don't want the hate that I'd probably get afterward. But I may do it anyway because, you know what, First Amendment. Okay, I'm sweating like son of a bitch. Oh my God. I don't like this little town. It's not safe. And you can't protect yourself if you are an NRA member and you have a carry permit from another state. It's not honored in New Jersey. NRA carry permits are not reciprocal in the state of New Jersey. Do not get caught with firearms here on your person. You will get a felony and you will never be able to carry again in any other state. Don't do it. Don't chance it. Even though you may be putting yourself in danger. I know some of you probably think that hopefully nobody will know and you'd rather be safe because you probably won't get caught, but people do get caught and it's not worth it. It's better to just accept that there's a chance that you're going to be the victim of a crime and you can't defend yourself here. Even though half the gang members probably do have guns and it's not safe. So if you want my honest recommendation, there are safer places to come than Atlantic City. I know I'm the one that has to walk around in it. I don't have a vehicle to secret myself. I had one at one time. It got stolen in Los Angeles by a bad guy who I thought was mafia. So, of course, I didn't call the cops because everybody knows if you call the cops on mafia, snitches get stitches, right? So, this is my life in what used to be called the world's playground. A place that if I could get the hell out of here, I would. And, of course, I would hate to leave my mother behind. That's the whole thing, is that I'm here kind of taking care of her and stuff. And she will not go to California with me. So I am faced with either leave her behind and seek my own happiness, or stay here and take care of her and be unhappy and not have much of a life. And that seems to me that that's the decision I made, because family does mean something to me. And besides, I have this YouTube channel. I have you guys to talk to. And even though, truth be told, I don't know that the channel is really going anywhere, because I don't know that the channel can grow any slower than mine is. And of course, being that I have under 1,000 subs as of the 30th of May, 10:37 p.m., I don't have ads on my channel, so I'm not really making coin from it. And occasionally I drop links to sites that I use to make a little bit of coin, and if you click those, I might get a little bit of something from that, but I think only maybe 3 people ever clicked them, so I don't think I even got half a cent. So that's why I really don't bother putting those links in anymore. And plus, if you don't put links, then you don't have to worry about an FTC statement that you're supposed to make. Because, you know, YouTube has gotten stricter and stricter for us creators, and we have to obey the rules, otherwise we risk losing our channel. And I have so many videos now that I would hate to leave this body of work and get taken off the air. I don't want that, so I have to kind of be good. All right. I know this was a weird video, maybe not what you expected, but in the off chance that you like the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And you want to see Cassie? Oh, look at what I got a cat. If you like this channel and you haven't already, why don't you consider subscribing? And if you do, hit that bell so it looks like it's ringing. If the bell looks like it's ringing, you won't miss anything I post. Meow, right? Don't miss anything I post, because if you miss anything I post, you just might miss something good, right? And one other thing, if I miss a day or two that would be my scheduled posting day, either I couldn't find enough footage to put up that day, or maybe I'm having a hard time mentally and just don't want to deal with it. I almost didn't make today's posting day, but at least I have something for you to post. Why are you complaining? Why am I talking to you since you can't hear me anyway? Oh. So, Ooh, say goodbye. Bye-bye. Talk to you guys soon. Hopefully it gets better.